Hello and welcome to PMF IAS Magnum Weekly Series. Today I am Akshay Vrat Gautam is going to talk about the current affairs from the date of 7th of June till 23rd of June in the subject of science and technology. Mind my words, this particular session because we are covering current affairs of more than 2 weeks, we are going to be covering this session into two different parts. Today we'll be finishing up with the first part, part A, and then it will be continued with part B that is going to be uploaded tomorrow. So let us start without wasting any more time. Let's see the highlights of the topics that I'm going to talk about today. The first topic of our discussion is going to be on nanoplastics, which is changing the nature of E.coli bacteria. We'll talk about what is the E.coli bacteria, how the nanoplastics are causing a problem. Now, this particular topic can also be seen overlapping with environment and ecology. So you can see it from both the perspectives of environment as well as from the perspective of science. Then we'll talk about what is proton emission and why this was in news related to an element called astatine, right? Astatine is an interesting element. It's a radioactive and also an unstable halogen element. We'll talk about astatine. You'll get to know more about it. Then we'll talk about the revised list of models and manufacturers. This is basically a notification released for wind energy systems, wind energy turbines, wind energy turbines and blades. For all these manufacturing capital expenditures, we'll be seeing what is the revised list of models. It is primarily focused to protect the data of India. Then we'll talk about the Axiom 4. After multiple delays, Axiom 4 is planned to be launched on 25th of June. So today, if we talk about Axiom 4, what is its objective, you'll be able to understand more when the news starts coming up from tomorrow on Axiom 4. I hope all of you know that this is the second time when India is sending its astronaut in space. Then we'll talk about the DIGIPIN service of India Post. We'll see what is its importance. Basically, we'll be seeing it from the technical point of view. We'll not be seeing it from the point of view of economics and such. Then we'll talk about the CROPIC Initiative. It's an important initiative to improve the agricultural yield. It is to benefit the farmers of the country. We'll see what exactly this means. Then we'll talk about Arnala. Arnala is India's first anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft. So it's basically a ship that is meant to conduct anti-submarine operations, especially in those waters which are shallow, where large ships cannot move in. Then we'll talk about what is a thermophilic bacteria. Again, this is a topic which I partly talk about in the subject of environment and ecology in the discussion of ecological adaptations. But this is also a topic which can overlap with biology, because in biology we talk about microorganisms. So thermophilic bacteria, hyperthermophilic, psychrophiles, these are kind of terms that will come up very often in both biology and environment. So you can consider both in environment and biology. We'll see what exactly is the reason why thermophilic bacteria was in news. Then we'll talk about the Drum app. It's an important initiative from IIT, which basically talks about, it's like Google Map, but giving you those routes and directions which will provide better air quality and higher energy efficiency. So it's basically a kind of a navigation service that helps you to find those routes in the city which can provide you pathways or roads with better air quality and higher energy efficiency that reduces the burden, or that reduces the fuel consumption, improves energy efficiency of the vehicle, and eventually is beneficial for the commuters, for all the pedestrians traveling around the road as well. Then we'll talk about what is the meaning of biostimulants. Biostimulant is seen as a very good alternative to chemical fertilizers, especially in the area of agriculture and pesticides, fertilizers and pesticides. We'll see what exactly is biostimulants and what all biostimulants have been recently notified by the central government. Then we'll talk about Ayush Nivesh Saarthi portal. It's basically an initiative that is aimed to promote investment, especially global investment in Ayush sector. Ayush, all of you know, it's a popular traditional market sector of India, and this is where in order to promote more and more global investment in this sector, Ayush Nivesh Saarthi initiative has been launched. Saarthi portal has been introduced. Then we'll also talk about the scheme for promoting or scheme to promote manufacturing of electric passenger cars in India. All of you guys know that very recently Government of India has reduced the taxation, the duties that are going to be implemented on importing electric vehicles from outside. So this has been introduced under the schemes to promote manufacturing of electric vehicles. We'll see this particular scheme in nitty-gritty, because this can be asked not just from the context of renewable energy, but also from the context of science and technology, transportation, logistics, and overall economy as well. So this is a topic which slightly overlaps with economy as well. I hope all of you guys have been able to understand the list of all the topics that we'll see. It's a big list. So without wasting any time, let us start with the first topic. The first topic is nanoplastics making E. coli more virulent. Now guys, virulent means more infectious, you can say, or more potent to cause diseases, you can say, right? So virulent is a word that means that it is now becoming more disease prone. All right. So it says nanoplastics are making E. coli more disease active, more disease prone. It can now actively cause infections, right? More actively cause infections, right? Now let's try to break down this particular news, and first let us see what exactly is the meaning of E. coli, what is a nanoplastic, and then let's see what really the meaning of more virulent means here. So when you talk about nanoplastics, so guys, we already know that plastics are nothing but a kind of waste. Plastic is a type of waste. We all are aware of it, right? What are nanoplastics? Nanoplastics are basically those plastics or those plastic particles which are less than 1000 nanometers in size. Which are less than 1000 nanometers in size. So plastic which are less than 1000 nanometer, we normally consider that as nanoplastics, right? So we have microplastic, we have nanoplastic. Nowadays nanoplastic has been causing more news because of further degradation of plastic from micro to nano. It is now being observed very much, and we have found nano and microplastics reaching as close to us as in the human blood, in the mother's milk. We have found nanoplastic traces. So plastic particles which are less than 1000 nanometers in size, we call them nanoplastics. And what is E. coli, guys? E. coli actually is a bacteria. E. coli is a type of a bacteria, and this bacteria is naturally found living inside the human intestine. This bacteria is naturally found living inside the human intestine. So it lives inside the human intestine, and this bacteria, because it is found in the human intestine, it is also found in the fecal matter. So this is one of those bacteria which makes the bacterial family of fecal coliform bacteria, right? So fecal coliform bacteria also includes E. coli, right? Guys, this bacteria otherwise happens, so it is given here already. E. coli belongs to the larger group of bacteria which are called fecal coliform, right? They are part of the fecal matter as well. So this is what E. coli is. Now, as I said that E. coli is naturally found in the human body, it basically means it is found in the intestine. So basically what is happening when accidentally nanoplastics are consumed by us. Now it may be consumed due to bioaccumulation of plastics, nanoplastics into our food, into our drinks, into milk and such particles. So when these, like you may be knowing that a lot of people are still consuming plastic packaged water. So this water that is packaged in plastic bottles, it is believed to have a high amount of nano and microplastics. A lot of people are consuming plastic bottle packed milk, plastic polythene packed milk. It is also found to have little small doses of nano and microplastics. So it's very obvious that consuming these kind of goods will eventually be adding some plastics into the food, and through that food it may be entering into the human body. So it has been noticed that when these nanoplastics reach our intestine and they are exposed with the environment that has E. coli bacteria, this bacteria, as it starts feeding on nanoplastics, it is found that this bacteria becomes highly active. Its immune system gets activated because nanoplastics are so small that they can easily enter into the bacteria as well. And the bacterial immune system, it gets activated. So I hope all of you understand that if a bacteria enters into our body our immune system gets activated the moment when the bacteria enters into our body. Why the immune system gets activated? Because immunity works whenever anything foreign, whenever any foreign particle enters into the body. So when we see the foreign particle of a bacteria or a virus entering into our body, our immune system gets activated. In the same way, the bacterial immune system also gets activated when the foreign particle like a plastic enters into the bacteria. So when you look at this E. coli bacteria, it comes in contact with any nanoplastic particle. Its immunity gets activated. The immune system of the E. coli gets activated and it starts responding to those plastics by creating, proteins in order to suppress the effect of that nanoplastics. I hope you understand. Now this has been found out that when the E. coli starts, its immune system starts to trigger. When the E. coli's immune system starts triggering, in the process of creating immunity against nanoplastics, E. coli have been found to produce a certain kind of very toxic substances called Shiga toxins. Shiga toxins. These Shiga toxins are considered to be highly dangerous because they can cause damages to spleen, kidney and various other human organs. You must have heard that sometimes we often hear that people have died because of E. coli poisoning. So that E. coli poisoning mostly occurs when there are certain E. coli that produce Shiga toxins. I hope you guys are able to understand. So nanoplastics, let's read what does it say. So this is the reason why E. coli has been written to become more virulent as it comes in contact with nanoplastics. The primary reason is that as the nanoplastics enter into the body, the E. coli starts triggering its own immune system against it, and in the process of triggering its own immune system, it ends up producing toxins which are very dangerous for humans to survive. I hope all of you understand. That's basically the logic. So E. coli has a negatively charged cell membrane that attracts positively charged nanoplastics. So nanoplastics by nature are positively charged, so they get naturally attracted to E. coli, thus increasing the bacterial stress. So E. coli gets into a lot of stress, causing E. coli to produce more harmful toxins such as Shiga-like toxins. Right? I hope all of you understand. Nanoplastics impair the immune responses by reducing the ability of immune cells to kill bacteria. Also promote antibacterial or antimicrobial resistance. So you can understand this is already a problem that India and many other countries are facing, that is antimicrobial resistance. We are seeing that most of the antimicrobial drugs that we consume, they have started becoming ineffective against bacterial or viral diseases. The primary reason is that our body has started, or the bacteria has started developing resistance against these antimicrobial drugs. So another way that can cause antimicrobial resistance is the response that E. coli gives to nanoplastics. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. So they promote antimicrobial resistance by carrying resistance gene and induce genetic changes that enhance survival and pathogenicity of E. coli. Pathogenicity means its degree of causing infections. How far it can cause infections, we use the word pathogenicity for that. I just now already answered that E. coli is a part of fecal coliform bacteria. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. This is the main purpose or the primary point in the news on nanoplastics making E. coli more virulent. So UPSC can frame a question here where they can ask a question regarding nanoplastics. It would be largely a plastic based question, but if it says that nanoplastics can trigger or can make certain bacteria more infectious, then yes, that would be a right statement, because it is making E. coli more infectious, more disease prone, more pathogenic, right? Now, like I said, E. coli is naturally found in the human intestine. Now, is there any role, is there any purpose that E. coli serves when it is there in the human intestine? The answer is yes. Actually, E. coli does not behave like a dangerous guest in our gut. E. coli does not act as a dangerous dangerous microorganism when it is there in the human body. E. coli basically helps in breaking down certain complex nutrients and helps in producing and absorption of vitamin K2 in the human body, right? So otherwise E. coli is beneficial because it helps in better digestion, especially cellulose can easily be broken down by E. coli. And secondly, it helps in absorption and production and absorption of vitamin K2, right? But yes, if this E. coli accidentally reaches other organs, then those sugar-like toxins that are produced by the E. coli, then this can cause severe ailments in other organs. So E. coli is a good organism only when it is found in the intestine. But here also, if there is any nanoplastic contamination in the body, then E. coli will start behaving in a way that they may start infecting around this region as well. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. This was the first news related to or in this past 2 weeks. Then the next topic of discussion, it's an interesting discussion, guys. It is on proton emissions and Astatine, proton emission radiation and Astatine. Now there has been a study of IIT Roorkee. There has been a study of IIT Roorkee where they have successfully detected and measured proton emission from Astatine. Now what is Astatine, guys? Astatine is actually a halogen. Astatine is a halogen element. Halogen basically are those elements like fluorine, chlorine, bromine. These are called as halogens, right? So Astatine happens to be one of the elements that lies in the same group of elements like fluorine, chlorine and bromine called halogens. And this has a mass number of 188. So we write Astatine as 80 with a mass number of 188. 188 basically means this is the number of protons plus number of neutrons present inside the nucleus. Those of you who do not know, don't worry guys. When you will be attending my class on science and technology, I'll be starting with these basic terminologies in the first class itself, right? So it is the total number of protons plus total number of neutrons present inside the nucleus. They are present inside the nucleus only. So how many protons and neutrons are present inside the nucleus? That is called as mass number. That is called as mass number. So in the case of Astatine, the mass number is 188. 188 is the total number of protons and neutrons present inside the nucleus. I believe all of you guys are able to understand. They making it the heaviest proton emitter observed till date. Now guys, what is the meaning of proton emission? What exactly is the meaning of proton emission? Let me quickly talk about what exactly this means. Now guys, before I talk about the word proton emission, I should first talk about the meaning of the word radioactivity. Radioactivity. What exactly is the meaning of the word radioactivity? Radioactivity का मतलब क्या है? So guys, radioactivity basically means whenever there is an unstable nucleus. I believe all of you are aware that for every element there are 3 particles: electrons, protons, neutrons. These are the 3 particles that we have for every element, and all these 3 particles, electron, proton, neutron, they are actually found present inside the atom. The atom is largely nothing but nucleus at the center that contains both proton and neutrons, and around the nucleus there is these electrons. There are electrons around the nucleus which are placed, right? So they revolve around the nucleus and they all create the atom. Of course guys, today in the 21st century, we don't treat that atom is just made up of electron, proton, neutron, but that's a discussion of a different topic. When we discuss standard atomic model, we see a different picture of an atom. But yes, largely we treat atom as having this kind of a shape where the nucleus is at the center comprising of protons and neutrons, and the electrons are at the periphery. Now, what is the meaning of radioactivity? So guys, radioactivity basically means it is a state where an unstable nucleus, mind my words, radioactivity is a state where an unstable nucleus tries to attain stability, unstable nucleus, mind my words, it is a state when an unstable nucleus tries to attain stability by releasing or by emitting the instability out in the space, by releasing all the instability outwards. So guys, what is the meaning of this instability? The instability, because I'm not taking up the regular class, so I'll discuss it in a simple way. The instability is nothing but the imbalances of charges that is there inside the nucleus. So the inside the nucleus also, we know that protons are positively charged. The protons, they happen to be positively charged. Neutrons are neutral in charge. Electrons are negatively charged. Inside the nucleus also, when the number of protons keeps on increasing, the instability of charges often increases. And due to this instability, the nucleus becomes unstable. And in order to manage this instability, this nucleus has to release some of this instability in the outward direction in the form of radiations known as radioactive radiations. In the form of radiations called as radioactive radiations. Right? So any substance in the form of radioactive radiations. Now these radioactive radiations are generally of three types. It is alpha, beta and gamma, and also heat. Alpha, beta, gamma and heat. Now I'm not diving deeper into alpha, beta, gamma, but just remember alpha basically means a positive helium ion particle. So a particle that is equal to 2 protons. Helium ion is basically 2 protons. Beta particle is a particle that is equivalent to an electron's charge and mass, so it is equal to electron, and gamma is basically a particle that is neutral. Of course, we can compare alpha beta particles on the basis of their power of penetration, on the basis of their power of ionization. Those are different parameters, but I don't see the need of discussing that part here. If there is a current affair related to that, I'll be happy to talk about it. So I'll just talk about that. Alpha particle is basically 2 protons, or it is similar to a helium ion, helium 2 positive, right? Now I just said 2 protons. When 2 protons are released from the nucleus because of the high instability, it is called that an alpha particle has got decayed or an alpha particle has left. Now what is proton emission? Proton emission is a very rare phenomena. This proton emission is a very rare phenomena when an unstable radioactive nucleus release a single proton. That means they are not releasing an alpha, they release a single proton. So in alpha there are 2 protons equal to a helium atom, a helium ion, but in the case of proton emission, it releases a single proton when the atom is in its ground state. There is a word written here that it detects its detection marks the first observation of ground state proton radioactivity in such a heavy isotope. Ground state basically when it is in its stable state, right? Stable state basically is not related to the state of radioactivity, but it could be radioactive, but it is trying to become stable, right? Its nucleus activity is much more stable compared to other situations. So when this astatine is considered in a stable form, it releases not an alpha particle which is generally expected from a radioactive substance, but rather it releases a single proton. Now this particular phenomena, mind my words, I would expect you guys to keep a notebook with you right now because this could be an important point. Normally the proton emission is expected from is released not by naturally occurring elements. Proton emission is normally observed by elements that have been artificially produced. Even this astatine as well was an artificially created radioactive nucleus, which is possible, guys. It is possible for us to create artificial radioactive nucleus. This astatine was also an artificially occurring radioactive nucleus which was found to be emitting protons, not alpha, not beta, gamma, but single protons in order to attain stability. So its radioactivity was of a different nature than the regular radioactive elements where they release alpha, beta, gamma. Here it released only a single proton. That's why it was in news. And why particularly for us it is important, because this particular report or this particular finding has been discovered by the scientist at IIT Roorkee. I hope you guys are able to understand. Guys, even though we have a lot of topics to cover today, but most of the topics are small only. They do not involve a lot of scientific understanding. If you have the understanding of science, then it's well and good. But if you do not have it, don't worry about it. Whatever I'm covering, it's good enough. You can obviously write your comments. I'll be reading the comments also. And I'll be responding to it. If you find the things a little more difficult, if you want more explanation, then I'll definitely be acknowledging it. Don't be under this impression that I would not be reading the comments. When you write the comment, I would definitely be reading it. Okay, and I'll make sure that in the next class we take up the doubts so that all of you are able to understand. Okay, so this is basically the point. And astatine. So astatine is a rare, highly radioactive element classified under halogen group, like I said. That is called group 17 of the periodic table, right? Now astatine 188, now what happens, this element astatine 188 is the mass number. It undergoes proton emission and forms polonium 187. Now polonium is a different element, so once astatine loses one of its proton, when it loses one of its proton, its mass number changes from 188 to 187. Atomic number also changes, right? 188 to 187, and it becomes polonium. And then guys, polonium has got a very short half-life, that is just 1.4 millisecond. The meaning of the word half-life basically means it's a time taken by a radioactive nucleus to decay by half of its previous size. Again, if you do not know about the word half-life, please do write in the comment. I'll be happy to talk about half-life in the next class. Okay. So it is the innate property. Half-life is an innate property of a radioactive element, where a radioactive element loses half of its nucleus, half of its radioactive nuclei in a certain period, right, in order to become stable. So the half-life of polonium is very small. It's just 1.4 milliseconds. That means once the polonium starts degrading and breaking down, tries to become stable, the polonium 187 decays into lead 183, and lead is often considered to be the stable, it is considered to be the stable nucleus that is formed, the stable nucleus that is formed when heavy radioactive nucleus is not the right word here, right? When heavy radioactive nucleus attains stability, right? There are a lot of questions that you guys can raise. There are a lot of questions that are possible that you guys can raise here, because the news itself came up in such a way that it can only be understood by a student who knows these basic principles of science. So guys, feel free to write. Feel free to write whatever you don't understand. I'll be responding to it. Okay. So stable. So whenever a stable, so lead happens to be the last stable nucleus that is formed when a heavy radioactive nucleus attains stability, right? So it will not be astatine anymore. When astatine nucleus, which is unstable, it attains stability, astatine's nature turns into lead. But guys, remember, this lead is also a highly unstable lead. It may turn into a different form of lead later, because normally the lead has a mass number of 204, right? The mass number of lead is normally 204. This also happens to be somewhat an unstable form, right? So polonium 187 then decays into lead 183, continuing through further decay steps towards a stable nucleus. So this is basically a point regarding astatine. I don't see there is a need of knowing about astatine much, but I believe all of you guys have understood the meaning of the word proton emissions, that how these a little bit of release of protons can change the nature of the element, and why it was in news, because IIT Roorkee professors have discovered it. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. That means this is enough that UPSC can ask, right? Now after this, next topic of discussion is the revised list of models and manufacturers for wind energy. Now this list has been released by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and they have released a draft amendment. They have released a draft amendment in order to promote, or in order to, you can say, um, promote wind turbines, wind production, or wind energy production in India. Now, this basically is in line with Niti Aayog's 2024 roadmap for promoting indigenization, for promoting more and more localization, more and more indigenization in the manufacturing of hardware and control systems. Niti Aayog came up with a roadmap in 2024 asking for making such or taking up such initiatives so that we can indigenize both manufacturing of hardware and control systems. So this has been the objective. So the purpose of this revised list of models and manufacturers for wind energy, it is mainly to promote indigenization of technology. Got it? So where we invest and eventually promote more and more Indian manufacturing plants related to wind energy. Now guys, UPSC can ask questions like this not only from the context of wind energy but also from the source, from other sources of energy. So you should be knowing about other initiatives also. So guys, first feature of this revised list of models and manufacturers is data localization. Data localization basically mandates all operational wind turbines data to be stored in India. I hope all of you know that this is also an important part of data security. You guys know that although India, in terms of the DPDP Act, in terms of the Digital Data Protection Law or the Digital Protection of Data Act that we have, Digital and Personal Data Protection Act that we have, we all realize that in India, when it comes to data localization, what is the meaning of data localization? It simply means that whenever you are collecting the data of the users, we use the word users, fiduciaries, individuals and such. So when you collect the data of any user or any company or any individual authority, the data is normally stored in servers that are owned outside India, servers that may be located outside India. Now in our DPDP Act, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, it does not prohibit if the personal data has been stored outside. Of course, it has adopted some safeguard measures through which the data can be well protected. Like it has adopted the measures regarding theft of data. The penalty is quite high, and then every time the information has to be shared with the user. All these things. So when it comes to data, the data is not mandatorily put in India. But when it comes to the revised list of models and manufacturers for wind energy, here it has mandated all manufacturers, all operational wind turbine data to be put or to be stored in India only, with no real-time data sharing or control conducted from outside the country. That means there is no sharing of data of the Indian wind turbines. Where is the location of the wind turbines? What has been the speed at which they are running? What is the capacity of wind turbines, each and every location where they are? All this data has to be localized, and we do not allow any sharing of this data on a real-time basis and any kind of research conducted outside the country without the permission of the country. I hope all of you understand. So first point is data localization. We promote extensive level of data localization. Then see, when you have the data in control, you also have the sovereignty. So it clearly prohibits any kind of foreign entity from remotely accessing or even controlling Indian wind farms operation. There is a high chance that when they have the data, the farms, the energy of the farms, it can be hacked, it can be manipulated. So it completely prohibits any kind of sovereignty of control on any wind farms of the country. No foreign entity should have the power. Next is domestic R&D requirements. The revised list also talks about that we want more and more original equipment manufacturers set up. Original equipment manufacturers are those organizations which are making the original spare parts of a product or original assembly units of the products. And this here, it is also to establish research and development centers in India within 6 months of the amendments issuance. And then we have increased localization standards. the OEM manufacturers, they must make sure that they are sourcing their turbine components, their other components like turbine blades, towers, gearboxes, generators, mostly from domestic manufacturers. Mostly from domestic manufacturers. So we want to make sure that we are producing wind turbine or wind related equipments mostly in India to promote domestic manufacturers capacity. I hope you are able to understand. So these are the major points that one has to keep in mind when you talk about wind turbines. So UPSC can ask a question, which I have just now, I also talked about it previously, that UPSC can ask a question regarding the list of all the initiatives that India has taken to promote wind energy, specifically for wind energy. So remember, this is also one such initiative. I believe all of you guys are able to understand. There are some places in India where wind energy really have a good potential, and those are the places which needs to be harnessed. I hope all of you guys are able to get it. So this is wind. Now the next topic of discussion is Axiom 4. All of you are aware Axiom 4 is India's second attempt of sending astronauts in space. It has been jointly developed by ISRO and NASA, primarily NASA, and these astronauts are going to be launched through the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. It is the same spacecraft that has been used by very recently we have Sunita Williams coming back. She also came back on the same spacecraft Dragon of SpaceX. Now the concept is very clear. This is the Axiom 4 mission is the fourth. Now what is interesting, that it's a private astronaut mission. It's a privately funded astronaut mission to the International Space Station. International Space Station is already a located space station. It's a space station that was set up in 2001 and it is expected to remain there till 2030 at least. And we all know that recently Russia has exited, right? So International Space Station is basically kind of a shelter and a very massive laboratory in space. You can go there, conduct experiments, live there for a few days and then come back. Sunita Williams herself was there for nearly 8 minutes in a single stretch, right? So it's a privately funded mission where 4 astronauts are going to be sent to International Space Station. Is being operated by private US space company Axiom Space. The name of the company is Axiom Space, who is sending them, and it is in partnership with NASA and SpaceX. Both these organizations are in partnership. It will be launched aboard SpaceX Dragon spacecraft from Kennedy Space Station based in Florida, Cape Canaveral of USA. Now here I would like to tell you that it has already been delayed multiple times. Multiple times the date has been extended. Now the current date in which it is expected to be launched, as till the time I am taking the class, to my awareness, it is 25th of June. So if today is 24th of June, tomorrow very likely we may see the Axiom 4 being launched, right? The mission duration is expected to be for 14 days. That means these astronauts would remain in the International Space Station for 14 days, and they are expected to conduct 60 scientific experiments. 60 scientific experiments which have been designed by nearly 31 nations. 31 countries have designed different types of experiments, and all these experiments are going to be conducted by these 4 astronauts. The major domains of these experiments are, they will conduct experiments on space biology. Space biology is also known as astrobiology, material science, microgravity, cognition studies on crop seed growth in space, right? These are the 4 domains where they are going to be working. I hope all of you understand. Astrobiology basically is the wider field of biology. It is basically the study of living organisms in space. Astrobiology. So space biology is also known as astrobiology. Microgravity basically means it is a condition where the effect of gravity becomes 0. So if you want to conduct a normal experiment that you do on Earth, but you want to conduct the same experiment in space, the only difference is that when you're conducting it in space, the condition changes. So now you are conducting an experiment in a state where the effect of gravity has become 0. And that changes the entire dynamics. The readings are very different because the effect of gravity has changed. The mission will send the first Indian astronaut to the space station as part of the joint effort between NASA and ISRO. Also, it carries first astronauts from Poland and Hungary. So Poland and Hungary are also sending their first astronauts along with the Indian astronauts. But remember, you guys know that it is by far the second Indian to go in space, but first Indian to visit International Space Station. First Indian astronaut which has been officially sent from India. The Space Vision of India 2047. This is the Space Vision of India 2047. It categorically focuses in making India a global leader in space technology by 2047. So by the time India turns 100, by the time we celebrate the 100 years of independence, the Space Vision of India says that we want to become a global leader in space technology, focusing on space exploration, commercialization of space, private partnership and private participation and global partnerships. These are going to be the 4 important areas where India is going to expand its ventures in space. Now let us take a look on some of the major or important experiments that these astronauts are likely to perform. The one experiment is that they will study microalgae and how does the microalgae grows in space, right? Because microalgae happens to be edible plant like substance, and it is likely to study the microalgae because in future if astronauts really need to go and we set up colonies in space, microalgae could be an important source of nutrients and also an important livelihood source for, because it is plant like, so it produces oxygen, breathable oxygen, and it is a nutrition rich source. Next is cyanobacteria research. Cyanobacteria is basically a type of bacteria that is called blue-green algae. Blue-green algae is a type of bacteria, it's not a type of algae. So it's a kind of a bacteria that contains chlorophyll in it, and through the help of chlorophyll it can perform photosynthesis. So it's a bacteria that can produce its own food, right? Cyanobacteria. Annabena, nostoc are good examples. Voyager tardigrades. So Voyager tardigrades are basically multicellular small animal like, they are multicellular tiny animals. They are basically found literally everywhere where multicellular life starts growing. Tardigrades are often found. In fact, it is believed that tardigrades might be there on this planet Earth for the past 400 to 500 million years. They must be here, multicellular organisms. You guys may be knowing that when planet Earth started evolving, for the initial billions of years, most of the life on Earth was single-celled organisms only. Most of the living organisms for some billions of years, it was a single-celled organisms. It was only in the past 500, 600 million years, it is believed that multicellular organisms started originating. So tardigrades happens to be tiny multicellular organisms. We call them water bears also, right? But they have no relation with bears, by the way, right? So they are, one of some of the initial organism that must have been formed, that must have got originated on Earth in the initial years. Other research that are related, they are related to crop seeds, right? Growing some plants through seeds in the International Space Station. Myogenesis means testing muscle tissues. Myo is a word that comes from muscles. So testing growing muscular tissues, muscular cells and such things, right? Then they will also be studying cognitive and visual studies. They will assessment of screen use impact on astronauts, cognition and vision in zero gravity. So when an astronaut is using a screen in zero gravity, how does the body of the astronaut changes? How does it respond? They will study that. Then they'll also be looking at some of the strategic importance of the mission. That means providing practical training in space flight operations, microgravity adaptations, emergency readiness, key for India's upcoming Gaganyaan astronaut human spaceflight as well. So it becomes an important or integral part of the Gaganyaan astronauts planning, because once the astronauts are trained for Axiom 4 mission, these astronauts will likely to be trained for going again in space, and it can help the Gaganyaan, which is going to be India's first human space flight, to be implemented successfully. So guys, these are the important points under Axiom 4. I'll see if, yeah, these are the important points in the Axiom 4. Now the next topic of discussion is DIGIPIN. What is this DIGIPIN? So DIGIPIN has been launched by the Department of Post, right? Department of Post have launched this DIGIPIN, and this is I'll answer this question. Like you all know, we have something called PIN code. So if you tell the PIN code write your PIN code in a computer, or if you tell PIN code to a postmaster or to a postman, he would easily be able to find out where this particular place is. The PIN code becomes an important way of identifying from which district you're calling from. Not just district, guys, it can also help us identify within the district also. If there are multiple pin codes depending on population, it can also tell you from which area you have sent the message or you have sent a letter. That is the importance of pin code. Now with the help of satellite geotagging, with the help of satellite GIS mapping and navigation services, India Post or Department of Post have come up with an open source initiative called DIGIPIN, where they will be using ISRO's remote sensing network of satellites with the help of the application developed by IIT Hyderabad, and they will be marking the entire Indian surface in squares of 4 meter by 4 meters. So basically what they have done, they have used the data of the satellites through ISRO and IIT Hyderabad, and they have basically divided the entire country into tiny grids of 4 meter by 4 meter square grids. So they have divided the entire country into a grid pattern of 4 meters and 4 meters each. And every house, everything, every location is now put into that grid, 4 meters, 4 meters. So now with the help of identifying which grid, so suppose if my house falls in a certain grid, they will simply be using that grid's location and use that as your DigiPin. In this way, any kind of delivery, any kind of person reaching your house would be able to reach with an accuracy of 4 by 4 meters, which is extremely high. I hope all of you understand. So it divides India into approximately 4 meter by 4 meter grids and assign each grid with a unique 10 character alphanumeric code, which is called DigiPin. Unique 10 character alphanumeric code. You understand alphanumeric, it has alphabets and numbers both. Based on the latitudes and longitudes coordinates of that area, it can be used offline as well. So once your house has been tagged with its latitudes and longitudes, its DigiPin has been generated. Now you can use this DigiPin even offline as well. So guys, this becomes an interesting way of using the satellite based applications in finding your exact address in the city or on the planet. Now there is a term that has got really popular, which UPSC can again ask. So if you look at the objective of this initiative, the term will also be very clearly understood. It seeks to provide standardized geocoded addresses for seamless delivery of public and private services. So the idea is basically to improve logistics. And by having DigiPin, our logistics services are likely to be improved extensively. And guys, once the logistics of India has been created so accurately by the Department of Post, it may be possible that India can offer this logistic or this DigiPin as a service for other logistic and transportation companies. This may be called as address as a service, AAAS, addresses as a service. That means we may offer this DigiPin context to various other logistic and transportation companies, and we may be able to provide this service where the other companies may also be able to benefit, and overall logistic industry of India may prosper. It is part of a previous initiative called Dhruv. Dhruv was another initiative which was basically a digital addressing system only. It was digital hub for reference and unique virtual addresses, which aims to create standardized, interoperable and geocoded digital addressing system. So it is part of the previously made system called Dhruv, and now this is basically the way how the entire geographical areas can be mapped much more accurately. It applies to all the geographical areas of the country, including the rural areas, forest areas, and even maritime zones of the country. It also helps in areas where no clear addresses exist and making it universally applicable. So wherever the address is not clearly mentioned and the postman struggles to reach your house, with the help of DigiPin, there would not be any possibility of failure. So this is the purpose of having the DigiPin. UPSC can ask these kind of questions, even though it may be related to economy in terms of promoting logistics and such, but you can understand it's a technological innovation. That's why I'm talking about it in science. Next is CROPIC Initiative. Now, this is an initiative from Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Actually, I have personally been a part of one such initiative way back in 2016 and 17, right, which basically tries to find some digital or you can say AI based systems in monitoring crop health. So this CROPIC is a similar initiative. So this basically is a way of collecting real time observational data and photos of crops in the country. So CROPIC full form is collection of real time observations and photo of crops, a digital initiative under Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So guys, you must have read about Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. It was introduced, if I'm not wrong, in 2017 maybe, and this scheme has been found to be very lucrative considering crop insurance against losses. So whenever there is a loss, farmers can claim an insurance if their farm was registered under the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So this would be a way how we can take real time observations and photographs of the crops, and if there is any claim that has come to the insurance companies regarding crop failure, they can assess those claims much faster. I hope all of you understand. The objective here is to monitor crop health, automate estimation of crop losses in the country using AI driven computer vision models, and facilitate faster, transparent and evidence based insurance compensation. That's primarily is the objective. So you can understand, again, this is using some kind of AI driven and geotagging based initiatives. That's why this can also be related to science as well. It is already a part of economy. I hope you understand. So data collection is the first thing in under CROPIC. Farmers and officials upload the geotag time stamped photographs 4 to 5 times during the crop cycle using the CROPIC mobile app. AI based cloud platform then analyzes these images for the crop type, for the growth stage, for the stress component and damage extent using computer vision. Web dashboard is then going to offer real time visualization for monitoring as well as decision making by authorities at various levels. And then it also reduces the dependency on manual surveys and subjective assessment, which helps us in providing all these compensations much faster, because manual surveys of a large region may take a very long time. So this ensures a faster, more transparent and more accurate crop insurance claims, and also supports digital agriculture and AI integration in public schemes. I believe all of you guys are able to understand this was the CROPIC initiative of Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Next is Arnala. You can see that most of the initiatives are factual and very simple to understand, but you can understand the kind of impact that they can make if they are implemented in the same spirit, right? Now guys, next is Arnala. Arnala happens to be the first Indian anti-submarine warfare ship for shallow water, for shallow waters. This is the image of the Arnala shallow water craft. So shallow water, basically it is capable of encountering and even neutralizing any submarine if it comes extremely close to the Indian waters. Now guys, you all understand that when you talk about Navy, we normally identify Navy as blue water and brown water Navy. Blue water Navy is supposed to be the one which is very capable on the high seas, and brown water Navy is considered to be capable in the territorial waters which are close to the shore. So when an enemy submarine comes very close into the shallow waters of India, then most of our large ships, they struggle to neutralize the submarine. That is where we require shallow water crafts, and Arnala is the first anti-submarine. It has been designed to neutralize submarine operations of other countries, of the enemy countries, in shallow waters. So it is the first anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft. We call it ASW SWC. Arnala. It is named after the historic Arnala fort in Vasai, Maharashtra. Many submarines are named after Marathi names, by the way. INS Karanj, INS Kalvari, INS Khanderi, right? It is equipped for a range of anti-submarine warfare operations, like it is equipped with an underwater surveillance system, search and rescue operations underwater. It is capable of undertaking ASW, anti-submarine warfare operations, in coastal waters as well. along with advanced mine laying capability. It can lay mines against submarines. It has been designed and constructed by the Garden Reach shipbuilders and engineers based in Kolkata, along with a public-private partnership model with L&T. Right? So this clearly shows that there is a massive upgradation in terms of the domestic manufacturing of high-end quality military hardware. INS Arnala is a very good example of this. I believe all of you guys have been able to understand. Got it? Now guys, we have another topic of discussion. It's called thermophilic bacteria. What is a thermophilic bacteria? The name thermophilic, let's try to break it down. Again, like I said in the introduction also, this topic can be also related with environment, because thermophilic bacteria are also part of environmental studies, like when we study hydrothermal vents, hot springs and such. Now, let me first quickly talk about what is a thermophilic organism, and then we'll talk about what is so special about this particular thermophilic bacteria and why it is in the news. So guys, the word thermophilic, you guys can understand, the word thermo is heat, right? And the word philic comes from, if it sounds close to the word affinity, right? So philic is basically a word. Phobic, philic. Phobic means scared, right? Philic means loving. So heat loving or heat, heat loving would be the right word. So heat loving organisms, the organisms that have affinity towards heat, we would call them thermophilic, right? So normally we have a range of 40 degrees. Sometimes it can be 35 degrees to 70 degrees, but I'm writing 40 degrees Celsius to 70 degrees Celsius is usually the range for thermophilic organisms, right? So any organism that prefers to live in a temperature of 40 to 70 degrees, we normally consider it as thermophilic organism. Okay? It exists at a temperature of up to 70 degrees. Sometime it could be written as 75 also, guys. Don't feel about 5 degrees or differences. It could be 75 also. 40 to 75, 40 to 80. Then guys, we have something called hyperthermophilic. Hyperthermophilic would be something that exists beyond 80 degrees Celsius and can go up to 150 degrees Celsius. We may call it hyperthermophilic organisms. Then there could be extremophilic organisms that can survive at an even greater temperature, up to 400-500 degrees Celsius. That means the temperature which is closer to the volcanic tubes and such of an active volcano. So such kind of organism could be there. Then there is another name called psychrophilic. Psychrophilic is exactly the opposite. It is basically organism that live at cooler temperature, right? Temperature less than 15 degrees Celsius. It could be less than 0 also. It could be less than 0 degrees also, right? Psychrophilic. So like this, we can identify different types of organisms based on their temperature affinity. Now, what is this thermophilic bacteria? So there is a bacteria. There is also a good examples given here. So why we are talking about it? Actually, in the Rajgir region of Bihar, you must be knowing Rajgir is a very popular historical site, right? So in Rajgir of Bihar, there is a hot spring lake called the Rajgir Hot Spring Lake. At this place, there is a thermophilic bacteria discovered, which is called actinobacteria. Actinobacteria is a name of a thermophilic bacteria that has been identified and discovered at the Rajgir Hot Spring in Bihar. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. That's the reason why thermophilic bacteria was in news. There are some other examples of the thermophilic bacteria like Thermococcus, you guys can Kodak carenesis, Bacillus stereothermophilus, Thermus aquaticus. All these are examples of other thermophilic organisms. They are all bacteria and they basically have adapted to survive at higher temperature. I hope all of you understand. What are the places where naturally these bacteria or these organisms may be found? They are usually found in hot springs only, in hydrothermal vents. They are found under at the sea floor, guys, in the deep sea, tectonically active faults, lines in the earth, volcanic sites and decomposition sites. These are the areas where these thermophilic bacteria or organisms are quite popularly found. Now, how are they able to survive? They are basically able to survive because their cells they contain the cell membrane, especially the outer covering of the cell contains the outermost is cell wall, but inside the cell wall there is an outer covering called cell membrane, and it contains a very high hydrophobic environment. It basically contains so much of fats that these fats are able to remain away from water. So whatever water is there inside these organism, that water is never allowed to be released out because of the strong fatty acids at the outer cell membrane, and that prevents any kind of damage that may be caused due to high temperature, right? That's the idea of thermophilic bacteria. I believe all of you guys are able to understand. Please, again, if you have any questions, please do write. Then guys, the next topic of discussion is drum app. Drum app or drum app. The drum or drum app, it is basically known as dynamic route planning for urban green mobility. It has been developed by IIT Kharagpur, and it's a very interesting initiative, guys. It's basically a web application which is just like Google Maps, giving you directions to your destination, but it has been designed in such a way that it is not going to give you the fastest route to your destination. Rather, it is going to give you a route which is best in air quality and energy efficiency for you. The pilot project has been designed to be implemented in the city of Delhi, but you guys can understand it is something that can be implemented across the country, because you know that out of the 20 most polluted cities, somewhere around 18 to 19 are Indian cities only. So imagine using these Droom app can help in giving you the best possible route if you are walking, if you are driving in a city. I hope you understand. Best possible in terms of the least energy consumption and having the least exposure to air pollutants. I hope you understand. Got it? So this is basically the parameters that are used here. So this is what we have here. The Droom generates multiple options while fetching real-time traffic updates as well. Then guys, next is the meaning of the word biostimulants. Now again, why are we talking about biostimulants? Actually, the central government of India has notified 34 chemicals as biostimulants to boost bio input manufacturing. So basically the idea is that we need to promote more and more agricultural production. We have to increase our agricultural production, but at the same time we don't want to depend on dangerous chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So what are biostimulants? Biostimulants are nothing but naturally or biologically produced substances that can enhance plant growth and resilience to pest, droughts and such. So if you want to, you all must have heard of biopesticides, biofertilizers. Biostimulants are basically those only. Those are biostimulants would technically come under the larger domain of biopesticides and biofertilizers only. So biostimulants are those naturally produced or biologically derived chemicals that may be enhancing the growth factors for plants, that may be making the soil or the environment more nutrition rich, and also makes the plants more resilient to any kind of damages, pest and such, right? Especially under stress conditions like drought, heat and pest. Unlike traditional fertilizers, which normally are chemical fertilizers that provide direct nutrients of NPK, biostimulants improve the nutritional uptake efficiency and boost plant metabolism. It is naturally produced, so it has less side effects or less impact on the overall environment as well. I hope all of you guys are able to understand biostimulants. The objective of introducing these biostimulants is to improve crop quality, yield and stress tolerance with reduced chemical inputs. We have to reduce the chemical inputs into the agriculture, right? They generally have three categories primarily. One is biological stimulants like seaweed extract. Seaweed is a kind of an algae, right? We have a good production of seaweed across the country. We do not have kelp, but we have good reserve of seaweed production. Organic things like fulvic acid, humic. These are popular ways of acting as biopesticides, right? Fulvic acid. It can reduce the growth of other organisms. Protein-based compounds like amino acid blends, biochemicals, antioxidants, anti-transpirants, all these are examples of biostimulants that can help in better functioning of plants, plant growth and make them more resilient. Now this particular notification has been passed or regulated by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare again, and this particular order has been listed under the Fertilizer Control Order of 1985. Remember, Fertilizer Control Order comes under the Essential Services Act of 1955. There are some kind of services that are essential for the country's survival, for the country's growth, like nurses. Understand what would be the essential services, right? So this has been given, or this has been passed under the Essential Services Act 1955. In 2021 itself, biostimulants were officially added in the distinct category of the agri inputs. So in 2021, they have been distinctively added into the agricultural inputs. I hope all of you guys are able to understand about biostimulants. Now, next, after biostimulants, the next discussion is on Ayush, Nivesh, Saarthi portal. What is the Ayush, Nivesh, Saarthi portal? Ayush, Nivesh, Saarthi portal, as I told you in the introduction itself, it is an initiative to promote investments, especially global investments in Ayurveda or Ayush based industries. Ayush is basically a short form for Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha and homeopathy. It now also includes Sova Rigpa as well, right? So what is it? Let's see. It has been launched to boost investment in traditional medicine. Ayush happens to be the Traditional Medicine Ministry of India as well, Ministry of Ayush. It is a one-stop investor-centric digital portal for Ayush sector. The full form is given here. It has been developed by the Ministry of Ayush in collaboration with Invest India to promote foreign direct investments and private participation in Ayush based ventures. It combines the policy framework, incentives and investment ready projects, which are all these things can be given in just one single place, right? Ayush, Nivesh, Saarthi. And then we have, it enables direct coordination with the government departments to resolve any queries efficiently, effectively. And lastly, it targets international investors and promotes Indian Ayush systems globally. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. Nothing much to talk about. Again, just a factual information, right? But this shows the importance of, initiatives like applications, communication technologies and such. Now, guys, the next topic of discussion is the scheme that has been recently notified by the Ministry of Heavy Industries, that is called the scheme to promote manufacturing of electric passenger cars in India. Now, many of you must have heard about it, that when Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned from USA the last time or the latest time, he basically basically signed an MOU as well, talking about some changes in the taxations or the changes in the tariffs against passenger electric cars, right? So Ministry of Heavy Industry notified this particular guidelines. It is right now the guidelines have been notified for the scheme to promote manufacturing of electric passenger vehicles in India. It's called SPMEPCI. The tenure of the scheme is going to be valid for the period of 5 years. So all the initiatives, all the suggestions that I mentioned in the scheme, they are valid for 5 years, right? What projects are going to be eligible for this particular scheme? What are the benefits that they will get once they qualify? So the expenditure incurred on a new plant. So this scheme is applied only on a new plant, new machinery, new charging infrastructure, equipment and associated utilities across India. So it is meant only for new initiatives. The expenditure made on second-hand refurbished plants and machinery, etc., will not qualify as investments, right? So if you make any initiative or any expenditure on second-hand machinery, or if you make a plant using for refurbishing the second-hand cars, refurbishing the batteries, this will not apply. Only for new investments. The eligibility is the companies with a global automotive manufacturing revenues exceeding 10,000 crores and global fixed asset investments above 3,000 crores. Only these companies qualify for this particular scheme. So it's not like every Chinese manufacturer is going to qualify. Only 1 or 2 Chinese manufacturer would likely be qualifying, which has this level of reserves. Tesla, of course, qualifies for that. And what I've heard, that Tesla may start their manufacturing and everything from the month of July itself. The implementation of a scheme, the project management agency PMA is going to be responsible for providing sectorial and managerial and implementation support for any willing company. the custom duties are completely built units. So if there is a completely built unit coming from other countries of electric four-wheelers priced above $35,000, then it has been reduced to 15%. It was earlier 70 to 100%. It was earlier 70 to 100%. It has been reduced to 15%. But the cap has been put only for 8,000 units. So in 1 year, for 8,000 units, the import duty on completely built cars, on completely built unit, has been reduced to 15% for the initial 8,000 units for the period of 5 years. So every year, if there are 8,000 units coming from outside India, the import duty will be 15%. But if the production exceeds 8,000, then they will have to end up paying the same duty of 70 to 100%. Eligible manufacturers must invest a minimum of 4150 crores within 3 years in the new plants, engineering R&D or charging infrastructure. So the companies who will be benefiting with this scheme, they still have to make sure that they have to invest at least this much of money, either in setting up the new plant, promoting indigenization, indigenous manufacturing, or engineering R&D or charging infrastructure, which is very important for a country like India, because we are lacking the adequate charging network for future electric mobilities. And then guys, domestic value addition. It mandates at least 25% of domestic value addition within 3 years and 50% within 5 years. That means even when you get a completely built unit, then also if you really want to take benefit of this scheme, you have to at least do 25% of value addition in the product through domestic manufacturing. Like for example, if I would say, like if there are some built units coming from outside, they can start the assembly of some of the components in India. They can start acquiring some kind of manufacturing of some components, like tires could be manufacturing for the cars in India. Some other kind of cooling systems may be manufactured. Some kinds of body consoles, spare parts, anything that can be manufactured, which contributes to 25% of the total value. So 25% of the total value should be added through domestic manufacturing within 3 years, and it should be increased to 50% in the next 5 years. I hope you understand. This again is meant to promote more and more indigenous manufacturing. Then guys, these are other schemes. This is not the only scheme that we had for promotion of electric vehicles in the country. We have other schemes as well, like we have got the PM E-Drive. In 2024, Government of India, Prime Minister of India unveiled. This was basically to promote sale of electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers in trucks, ambulances, buses, right? Then we have FAME, faster adoption for manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles. The second phase of the FAME scheme is going on, which provides production linked incentives. Then we have another production linked incentive for auto industry in 2021. This is basically to enhance domestic manufacturing of advanced automotive technologies, AAT. Then we also have the production linked incentives for batteries, PLI for ACC. ACC is advanced chemistry cells. It is incentives given on certain quantity of production for cells, right? So the objective is to create a capacity of 50 gigawatt hours battery manufacturing capacity, right? And reduce the import dependency of the Indian companies for that. Then guys, we also have PM E-Bus Seva. It is basically to deploy over 38,000 electric buses across the country under a payment security mechanism, right? Where they would be buses launched, and then their original owners, they will be given some kind of ways of ensuring the payments are given over a period of time, not immediately, right? So these are basically the schemes that were already there in the country. Again guys, I am giving this disclaimer that I said previously also. The source of all this current affairs comes from PMF itself. So you can you can make, or I would say that try to get the maximum benefit out of this initiative. Try to add all these important points in the notes wherever you have talked about it, wherever you have written this information. It will come up very handy at the time of the exam. So this completes my discussion for today, and whatever questions you have, please do write it in the comment. I will be reading the comment section myself and make sure that I deliver whatever you ask for. All the best, guys. That will be everything today. Today is part A. Tomorrow we'll be meeting for the same science topic, part B, right? And next week onwards, I think we'll be able to conclude it in just one class. Okay. So that is everything for today. All the best, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.